Welcome friends to this course on understanding exercise drama. We are in week 5 and this is going to be lecture number 1. Today we'll discuss a very famous exercise dramatist, Harold Pinter, and his plays. Harold Pinter was a British playwright, screenwriter, director, actor, regarded as one of the most influential dramatists of the 20th century. Known for his distinctive style, marked by sparse dialogue, pauses, and underlying tension, Pinter's works explore themes of power, control, and human relationships, often exposing the dark and ambiguous aspects of human nature. Born on October 10, 1930 in London, Pinter grew up in a working-class Jewish family. His early experiences during the World War II imbued in him a sense of underlying menace that would permeate his works. Pinter's breakthrough as a playwright came in the year 1957 with The Room. It is a one-act play about a woman, Rose, who is in her 60s and lives in an unknown, unspecified room with her husband, Bert. It was a one-act play that introduced his signature blend of everyday banality with unsettling existential undertones. The play was followed by The Birthday Party, The Dumb Waiter, and The Caretaker. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, Pinter produced a series of successful plays, including The Homecoming, Old Times, and No Man's Land, which showcased his evolving style and experimentation with memory, time, and identity. In addition to his stage work, Pinter was a prolific screenwriter, adapting several novels for film, including The Servant, The Go-Between, and The French Lieutenant's Woman. Pinter's later plays, such as Ashes to Ashes and Celebration, continued to explore his complex themes. In 2005, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. Harold Pinter died on December 24, 2008, leaving behind a body of work that continues to be celebrated for its depth, wit, and profound insight into human psychology and power dynamics. In this week, we'll discuss 3 major plays of Pinter titled The Room, The Birthday Party, and The Caretaker. Today, we'll discuss his first play, The Room. It is the story of an elderly couple, Rose and Bert. They live together in a claustrophobic room. They are cut off from the outside world. All of a sudden, they have some mysterious visitors. These visitors are Mr. Kidd, who happens to be either the landlord or the caretaker of the building. Then there is a younger couple, Mr. Sand and Mrs. Sand, and they are looking for a room. They have been informed by the caretaker of the building that there is a vacant room in that building. They come searching for that vacant room and meet Rose. We also have a blind Negro called Riley who wants to meet Rose. Rose refuses to meet him because she does not know him. However, we are informed that Riley is here with a message. At the end of the play, Riley is murdered by Rose's husband, and the play suddenly ends with Riley's murder and Rose becoming blind. Martin Islin, in his book Pinter, a study of his plays, writes about The Room. He argues the basic situation, which was so frequently to recur, is that of a room with a door. And outside the door, a cold, hostile world. The room is warm and light. Outside, it is winter, cold and dark. The second basic component of the play is equally characteristic of much of the later Pinter. A couple, the man, large, brutal, 50 years old, the woman, older than the man, almost 60, motherly sentiment. The woman is completely devoted, completely absorbed in looking after the man. This observation of Pinter is essential to understand the complexities of the play. There is no biographical information available regarding Rose and her husband Bird. Who is Rose? Since when she has been living in that room? Where from she has come? Rose has totally disconnected herself from the world outside. Unless there are external visitors, Rose does not meet anyone except Mr. Kidd, who happens to meet her occasionally. It is her husband Bird, who is a van driver who goes out, and he happens to be the link between Rose and the external world. Why has Rose confined herself to that room? Why does not Rose go outside and become part of the world? These are some of the complex questions that we need to reflect upon. In Pinter, the room serves as a powerful symbol of security, isolation, and psychological confinement. For Rose, in the play, the room is a protective sanctuary where she feels a sense of control. Although the room offers her security, it may also represent confinement. In Pinter's world, the room is a very powerful metaphor. It protects the individual from the threat that lies in the world outside. It can be a place of security and comfort, as Estlin has rightly suggested that the room is warm and comfortable. When compared to the outside world, which is hostile and menacing, the room offers solace and happiness to the individual living inside. Perhaps this is the reason that Rose does not want to go out and mix up with people. In her mind, the outside world is hostile, the outside world is threatening. This is what which exactly happens in the play when outsiders like Mr. Sand and Mrs. Sand do to her calm, secure, safe world. They bring in external threats and disturb the peace of her life. The room can also be interpreted as a metaphor for Rose's mind or inner world, where she tries to suppress fears, memories, or aspects of her identity. The intrusion of strangers could represent repressed thoughts or emotions surfacing, challenging her stability. In this sense, Pinter is very close to Beckett. Like Beckett's Endgame or Krapp's Last Tape, the room is also set in one single claustrophobic room. When the play opens, Rose says, "It is very cold outside, it is murder." She has been living in this room with her husband, Bert. Bert does not speak a single word. He appears to be dumb. Although at the end of the play, we know he is not so. Why is Bert not responding to Rose? Rose is caring, loving. She appears to be doting on Bert. Yet, Rose is obsessed with her room. She says, and I quote, "This is a good room. You have got a chance in a place like this. I look after you, don't I, Bert? Like when they offered us the basement here, I said, no, straight off. I knew that would be no good. The ceiling right on top of you. No, you have got a window here. You can move yourself. You can come home at night. If you have to go out, you can do your job. You can come home. You are all right. I am here. You stand a chance." Then there is a pause. I wonder who has got it now. I have never seen them or heard of them, but I think someone is down there. Whoever's got it can keep it. That looked a good rasher, Bert. I'll have a cup of tea later. I like mine a bit stronger. You like yours weak. This conversation, which is in fact a monologue as Bert is not responding, represents the banality of human life. It represents the ordinariness of everyday conversation. Rose is referring to this room as her home, a place of safety and security, a place of warmth and comfort. And she compares this room to the basement, which she had seen before but did not put in because she thought that would not be appropriate. She had immediately said no to the basement. Rose prefers her room because it serves as a haven from the chaotic, unpredictable world outside, providing her with a sense of security, routine, and control. Rose considers the room as a protective bubble that shelters her from potential threats and dangers. Her fixation on maintaining the room's familiarity, preparing food, cleaning, repeating daily routine, gives her a sense of control over her environment. Here, we can also interpret the room as the mind of Rose, mind which has buried memories, anxieties, and regrets of Rose, which she tries to hide from others. The room, in this sense, becomes a metaphor where Rose can hide the truths of her life or the past of her life. Rose compares her room with the basement. For Rose, room is warm and the basement is dampness. Let us examine the conversation between Rose and the science couple to better understand the symbolical meaning of the room. Rose says, I don't know about the house. You are all right, but I would not mind betting there is a lot wrong with this house. I think there is a lot of damp. Mrs. Sand says, yes, I felt a bit of damp when we were in the basement just now. You were in the basement? Yes. We went down there when we came in. Why? We were looking for the landlord. What was it like down there? Could not see a thing. Why not? There was not any light. Rose says, but what was? You said it was damp? Mrs. Sand says, I felt a bit, didn't you, Todd? Mr. Sand says, why? Have not you ever been down there, Mrs. Hurst? Oh yes, once, a long time ago. Well, you know what it is like then, don't you? Rose says, it was a long time ago. You have not been here all that long, have you? Rose says, I was just wondering whether anyone was living down there now. Yes, a man. Rose, a man? Yes. Rose, one man? Evelyn has rightly suggested that Rose contrasts the warmth of the room with the obscurity and darkness of the basement. Basement represents elements of fear, unconscious, and threat. The basement can be read as a metaphor for the subconscious mind of Rose. While the room upstairs represents Rose's conscious desire for safety and control, the basement symbolizes the hidden, often dark aspects of her psyche that she is reluctant to face. And that's why Rose very categorically says that she has been to the basement only once, and that too was a long time ago. Like her subconscious or unconscious mind, the basement is marked by dampness and darkness. It is an obscure place where buried memories of Rose live and reside. Dampness represents emotions and memories that Rose has suppressed. Just as dampness seeps through the wall, these suppressed memories of Rose also return. When Rose says, I was just wondering whether anyone was living down there, Rose is trying to conceal her own past from herself. This can also be interpreted as an act of self-deception. Although Mr. and Mrs. Sands appear to be ordinary couple who are looking for a room, but their presence adds to the threat and tension in the place. They are one of the several intrusions that Rose has to encounter. The couple arrives with an ambiguous purpose, supposedly looking for a room. We suggest they might be future occupants of her space. This uncertainty disrupts Rose's sense of control over her environment, mirroring her anxiety about losing her place or identity within this protected space. Their casual demeanor belies a larger existential dread that permeates the play. The fact that the strangers like Sands can enter into her room remind her that her sense of security and warmth is fragile. In fact, Mr. and Mrs. Sands are representatives of disruptive forces in human life. They are the instruments of intrusion. Soon after Mr. and Mrs. Sands leave, Rose is visited by Mr. Kidd, whom she considers to be a landlord, although he might be only a caretaker. The conversation between Mr. Kidd and Rose is of paramount significance to understand the philosophical significance and meaning of the play. Let us examine their conversation. Rose says, Mr. Kidd, I was just going to find you. I have got to speak to you. Mr. Kidd says, look here, Mrs. Hurd, I have got to speak to you. I came up specially. Rose says, there were two people in here just now. They said this room was going vacant. What were they talking about? Mr. Kidd replies, as soon as I heard the van go, I got ready to come and see you. I am knocked out. What was it all about? Did you see those people? How can this room be going? It is occupied. Did they get hold of you, Mr. Kidd? Get hold of me? Who? I told you two people. They were looking for the landlord. Mr. Kidd says, I'm just telling you, I have been getting ready to come and see you as soon as I heard the van go. Well then, who were they? So the question is, why is Rose scared of the Sands couple? Rose has built a routine life inside her room. Her room has become a sanctuary for her. The arrival of the Sands couple and the possibility that they could hire the room threatens the fragility of the sense of security that Rose has. Her fear of the Sands couple is an instance of existential anxiety, and Sands represents the external threat. Rose is scared. What if the external world is going to know what is going on inside her mind? What if her memories are unburied? What if her anxieties are exposed? Therefore, she becomes upset with the arrival of Sands couple and she wants to discuss this anxiety with Mr. Kidd, the old caretaker. If the Sands or others can enter and claim her room, it symbolizes the unsettling reality that her existence, like her place in the room, is ultimately impermanent. The idea that someone else could occupy her space connects to a subconscious fear of mortality and the impermanence of life. But Sands are not the only threat that Rose is experiencing. There is another threat that is living in the basement. Mr. Kidd comes and informs her that there has been a man who has been waiting to meet Rose for more than a week. That person has troubled Mr. Kidd so much that he has come to request Rose to meet that man immediately. Let us discuss the conversation between Mr. Kidd and Rose to understand who this man is. Mr. Kidd says, that's why I came up before, but he had not gone yet. I have been waiting for him to go the whole weekend. Rose says, Mr. Kidd, what did they mean about this room? Mr. Kidd says, what room? Rose says, is this room vacant? Mr. Kidd says, vacant? Rose says, they were looking for the landlord. Mr. Kidd says, who were? Rose says, listen, Mr. Kidd, you are the landlord, aren't you? There is not any other landlord. Mr. Kidd, what is that got to do with it? I don't know what you are talking about. I have got to tell you. That's all. I have got to tell you. I have had a terrible weekend. You will have to see him. I cannot take it anymore. You have got to see him. Rose says, see who? Mr. Kidd, the man. He is downstairs now. He has been there the whole weekend. He said when Mr. Hurd went out, I was to tell him. That's why I came up before. But he had not gone yet. So I told him, I said, he has not gone yet. I said, well, when he goes, I said, you can go up, have done with it. No, he says, you must ask her if she will see me. So I came up again to ask you if you will see him. Rose says, who is he? Mr. Kid says, how do I know who he is? All I know is he won't say a word. He won't indulge in any conversation. Just has he gone that and nothing else. He would not even play a game of chess. All right, I said the other night while we were waiting, I'll play you a game of chess. You play chess, don't you? I tell you, Mrs. Hurd, I don't know if he even heard what I was saying. He just lies there. It is not good for me. He just lies there. That's all, waiting. So Rose is occupied with sand and Mr. Kidd is obsessed with the man living in the basement. Who this man is? The man in the basement is an unsettling, mysterious figure. His emergence from the basement can be seen as the return of the repressed fears or hidden guilt. The basement itself is symbolic, as I have already told you, of the subconscious, where people store memories. His sudden appearance disrupts Rose's safety and comfort and forces her to confront aspects of herself that she had tried to bury. Although Rose is more concerned with her future, bothered about her room, which she feels may be occupied by the Sands couple, she also has to understand that she has to grapple with her past memories as well. The mysterious man about whom we are going to discuss in our next slide is the return of her dead memories or her hidden guilt. Although Rose is more worried about her future, fearing her room may be occupied by the Sands couple, what she has forgotten is her past. The mysterious man living in the basement has a message from her past. What is this message? Let us examine. This man says his name is Riley and he has been sent by her father who wants her to return to her home. We don't know where her father lives. Who is her father? Why has she left her father? Is she living with birds because she has deserted her father? Or her father is aware of her stay with birds? We cannot say anything about it with certainty. This mysterious man living in the basement says, and I quote, Riley, my name is Riley. Rose says, I don't care if it is. What? That's not your name. That's not your name. You have got a grown-up woman in this room. Do you hear? Or are you deaf too? You are not deaf too, are you? You are all deaf and dumb and blind, the lot of you. A bunch of the cripples. And then there is a pause. Riley says, this is a large room. Rose says, never mind about the room. What do you know about this room? You know nothing about it. And you won't be staying in it long either. My luck. I get these creeps coming, smelling up my room. What do you want? Riley says, I want to see you. Rose, well, you can't see me. Can you? You are a blind man. An old, poor blind man. Aren't you? Can't see a dicky bird. Why this man is blind? What is the significance of his blindness? His blindness suggests that there are forces in human life which cannot be comprehended or which cannot be controlled. His blindness may also refer to an intuitive wisdom, an inner light, which tries to remind Rose the fragility of her life, the vulnerability of her comfort. His blindness could suggest that he has an insight or understanding that others lack. It may also refer to existential themes like it has done in Beckett when we read the character of Pojo in Waiting for Godot and the character of Ham in Endgame. Both Pojo and Ham are blind men waiting for their death. So is there a possibility that the blind Negro living in the basement is a messenger of death? He has come to remind Rose that her life on this earth is about to end. The conversation between Riley and Rose is very interesting. Let us have a look. I have a message for you. What message? Who have got a message from? Who? Riley says, your father wants you to come home. There is a pause. Rose says, home. Riley says, yes. Rose says, home. Go now. Come on. It is late. It is late. Riley says, to come home. Stop it. I can't take it. What do you want? What do you want? Riley says, come home, Sal. And there is a pause. Rose says, what did you call me? Riley says, come home, Sal. Rose says, don't call me that. Riley says, come now. Rose, don't call me that. So now you are here, not Sal. Riley says, now I touch you. Rose says, don't touch me. Riley says, Sal. Rose says, I can't. Riley says, I want you to come home. Rose says, no. Riley says, with me. Rose says, I can't. I waited to see you. Yes. Now I see you. Yes. Saul, not that. So now. Now it's not certain whether Riley is a messenger from her father or he is her father himself. The father figure in psychoanalysis is often associated with authority, with power, which Rose had tried to overlook or ignore. It appears that Rose had tried to run away from her father, thereby indicating that Rose had tried to run away from her past. She had tried to dissociate her present from her past. Her father's message may represent the parts of her history or the self that she has attempted to ignore or leave behind. This message can also be an existential call. It may symbolize a confrontation of Rose with her own mortality, highlighting the inevitability of death. Riley is a blind prophet-like figure who has appeared to deliver the message to Rose. The message is a message of existence. The message becomes a metaphor of mortality knocking at the door of Rose. At the end of the play, this messenger, Riley, is murdered by the husband of Rose. His murder can be seen as the climax of Rose's encounter with the external world, an unknown world that she has been trying to avoid. Riley's death is not merely a literal event. It represents attempt on the part of Rose to eliminate the uncomfortable truths of her life, the buried emotions of her past. In a more symbolic sense, his murder can be viewed as the destruction of a certain kind of innocence. Riley, though an ambiguous figure, could be seen as someone who brings with him the potential for revelation of a deeper understanding of Rose's life. Killing him could represent the destruction of that potential for self-awareness or growth. It could symbolize the loss of an opportunity for redemption. His murder also signifies the refusal to confront mortality and death. And this refusal has been aptly suggested by Pinter by the blindness of Rose. When Riley is murdered, Rose shrieks and she says she cannot see anything. Her blindness is metaphoric here. It symbolizes her obstinacy to overlook death. The murder symbolizes an act of defiance against the inevitable, a desperate attempt to deny the death. So friends, we saw that the room is a very complex drama which brings to fore the threat lying underneath human life. It is a haunting exploration of the barriers people create to protect themselves and as a consequence, pain. The play delves deeper into the mind of Rose, revealing her fears, anxieties, guilt, and so on. Using minimalist settings and ambiguous characters, Pinter highlights the absurdity of human life and futility of human existence. We'll discuss more about Pinter and his other plays in our next class. Thank you.